Hey everyone, I'm Alexa and I make programming tutorials. Welcome to another Discord Pi video where I'm finally refining and updating my Discord music bot. The reason I'm making this new video is because there have been many requests for a better version. Also, I've realized that the methods I used to create the music bot in my old video could possibly go against YouTube terms of service and is also detrimental towards creators and artists. I will no longer be using YouTube DL to download the audios. Instead, my newer code will stream music so creators can still get the views they need. I will be using Lavalink and Wavelink to do this. If you did not understand any of that, don't worry. All you need to know is that you're in the right place. Lavalink is the software we'll use to power the audio and streaming. It requires Java 13, and by that I mean it only works with Java 13. So there have been some errors with other versions of Java, so you want to make sure you install this specific version. If you don't have Java 13 installed, you can either go to Oracle, so this page right here. You're actually going to need to sign in and create an account to do that from Oracle because it's a licensed software. But you can also go to OpenJDK and download Oracle for Windows or Linux/Mac here. If you already have a version of Java downloaded, then it's going to require some extra steps to switch versions. So first what you want to do is open terminal, and here you can actually check if you have Java. So if you type java-version, and if you get something like this, it'll say the Java version, so 17.0.2. If you get an error when you run this command, that means you don't have Java installed. But if you're like me and you have some more updated version of Java installed, then it's gonna be a little more difficult to manage that Java 13 version. So you want to look into installing something like JENV. So that's right here. This is the repository for JENV, which is used to manage Java versions. And I'll leave a link to this page in the description for more information regarding how to set this up and how to install it. Next, what you want to do is download the latest version of Lavalink. So you can go to this GitHub link, Freya code/Lavalink, and this is where Lavalink lives. You can go to releases. As you can see, for me, the latest version is version 3.4, and what you want to do is just click this lavalink.jar file and it'll install or download on your computer. And once you have that jar file, you want to move it into the same folder that your bot is in. Now let's create our bot script. PyCharm is my IDE of choice. Here I created a new file called music-youtube.py. As you can see, there's a few other files in here. Just ignore these. I was just doing some tests earlier, but we can create a new configuration. Let's change this to our music script here, press OK, and this is running Python 3.8. Okay. Also, over here we have our lavalink.jar. So it's in the same folder as our bot, and we have this application.yml file. And in here, you're actually going to paste this from right over here. If you, again, go to Lavalink and Lavalink server, there's a application.yml.example file. So basically, you just want to copy all of this from here to get the most updated YML file and paste it inside of your application.yml file. So here it's going to specify the certain basically config or settings for the server. You can see 0.0.0, which means we're hosting this Lavalink server locally, so it's being hosted on our computer, not in a server out on the cloud somewhere. We have this password, you shall not pass. I'm just going to leave it as default because again, this is running locally on my machine, so no one's going to be able to connect to it. But if you do deploy this to a server out on the cloud or in production, you will want to change the address and the password as well. The sources is just going to highlight what sources the Wavelink server is retrieving audio from. You can set these to true or false, but for me, I'm just going to leave this as it is. So you can X out of this, and now we're able to open terminal, and we can actually run our Wavelink server. So to do that, I'm going to first do java-version to check which version of Java I'm currently running in this terminal session, and that happens to be Java 17, so that's no good for us. We need Java 13. And I can check if I have Java 13 installed by doing JNV versions. And this is going to appear here. So I have version 13, 13.0.2 in my .jnv/versions folder. So to get it there, to get JNV to know that I have this Java 13 version installed, you have to use the command JNV add and then the file path towards that version of Java. So that's going to depend on your operating system and where you installed Java 13. So once you have that, you can actually use JNV to switch versions of Java in your shell. So if I do the command JNV shell and then type 13.0, what it's going to do is switch the Java version inside of this single terminal session. So if I do java-version now, it's going to say version 13.0.2. And that's what we want. Now, if I close out of this session, if I click this X on local and reopen the terminal and type java-version, it's going to say Java 17 again. But we can change that just for the time being to 13.0, which is what we do in fact want. Now that we're using the right version of Java, we can type in the command to start our server. So it's nice if you open terminal in PyCharm, it puts you in the correct directory. So our musicbot directory, and you can see our lavalink.jar is in that directory. But if you're doing it from terminal, you're going to need to navigate into that file yourself using cd and other things, but you guys can look up those Linux commands yourself. So I'm going to say java-jar lavalink.jar, and that should boot up our server. So you should get text like this. You can see this cool lavalink text there. And then if you look at all these processes, they are in fact starting. And if this doesn't work out, if you get like a bunch of error messages, that means your server did not boot up properly, and you probably have a problem in your application.yml file or something like that. Next, what we want to do is install Wavelink and Discord Pi, make sure we have those. So to install Wavelink, you can just add another terminal session, and we'll say pip install Wavelink. It's going to say I already have it installed, so that's great. And PyCharm, there's another way. You can go to PyCharm, Preferences, go to Project, Interpreter, and then you can add the packages here. So if I type Wavelink, it's going to come up there. And I could also add Discord Pi. I think it's Discord.py. Yeah, Discord.py. So that's added already. Click OK, and we have all the packages we need. And just a tip here is make sure that your server is running before you actually run your bot, because then your bot is gonna give an error and it's not gonna work. Now what I want to do is introduce you to the Boilerplate Code. If you have no idea what this code is, or if you've never seen this code before, then I advise you to go back and watch my other Discord bot tutorials where I show you step by step what all this actually means. And please do not watch this video only. Go back to my other videos because you're going to need an understanding of commands, how all that works before you do this music bot. So basically here I'm just importing secrets, which is a Python file I made to hold my client token and stuff, which my bot token, and import Discord and commands, obviously, and import Wavelink. We're creating a new client and setting the intents to all. And to do this, you're going to have to make sure you go into your Discord developer portal and enable some privileged intents, some gateway intents. Basically, go into that section and just enable all the intents that you can. Now let's talk about this code that basically sets up Wavelink for us. Again, like I said, you can think of Wavelink as a connection between our Wavelink server and Discord Pi. And to connect to the Wavelink server, we're going to need to set up what's called a node, and we're going to have to create this node and connect to it. And to do this, again, this is all from the documentation. I'm going to bring up this Wavelink example here called basic_cog.py, and this uses cogs to create that music bot. But as you can see here in the instructor, we do this bot.loop.create task, and we have our nodes function, and we're creating that node. So in our case, since we're not using cogs, we're just going to do that in the onReady event. So when our bot boots up, we're going to say client.loop.create task, and we'll pass in this helper function as our parameter. The client.loop is used for HTTPS and WebSocket operations, and I got that from the Discord Pi docs, so that's the description. But basically what this will do, this helper function here, is it's not a command or an event, but it'll wait for the client to be ready, and it'll create a Wavelink node. And to do that, we just need to pass in some of these arguments, like our bot, which is our client, our host, which is going to match the host we put in the application.yml file, our port and password, which will also match what we put in that application file. And now that we have that, a way to check that our node is ready and that we successfully connected to it is to use this event that the Wavelink documentation, the Wavelink library gives us, which is on Wavelink_node_ready. And we get this node argument that we're able to get information from, and we can just print out the node.identifier, which is just like an ID for the node. So let's run this and see what happens. We get this node printed, so node and then this random ID is ready. And if we go back to our server and terminal, let's go here, you can see we have more text printed out because a node was apparently connected, which we did in our code. Now, just for a moment, I want to show you guys the Wavelink documentation, and this documentation is honestly 10 out of 10. Very easy for me to understand. It had some great recipes and examples. This was awesome. Anyway, but I want to show you this, and if you go to event reference, you can see all the events this Wavelink package gives you. We're going to be heading towards player, which is an important part of our application. The player is essentially a voice connection between our bot and the voice channel in Discord, and it allows us to do these things like play music, resume, seek, set filters for our songs and stuff like that, and connect to our voice channels and stuff. So this is what we're going to be creating right now. But the thing with this Wavelink.player class is that it doesn't contain a queue. So the problem I faced during development was creating a queue that was unique to a specific player or a specific instance or voice channel connection. So as you can notice here, Wavelink does have a queues class, and we will be using this. So wavelink.queue is a class we can use to create a queue of tracks. But the problem here is, if we go back to our code, and just think about this for a minute, if we were to define a queue up here, like queue equals wavelink.queue. So there we instantiated a queue, it's created. The problem with this is only one instance of a queue, meaning if our bot is in multiple servers and it's playing music in multiple voice channels, every single person or every single command is going to have access to this single queue instance, meaning there's millions of servers that this bot is on, millions of music playing, but there's only one queue for all these millions of servers. And that's a problem because we want there to be a queue for each server, basically, or each player instance. So the solution here is to create a custom player class, since the regular Wavelink.player class does not have this queue functionality inside of it. What we need to do is create our own custom player class. And to do this, here's the code right here. What we do is create a custom player class which extends Wavelink.player. This is the Python notation for extending. I know Python just does not use keywords like Java. It would make it a lot easier if they did, honestly, but that's a rant for later on. We create a constructor and call super, and here is where the actual cool part comes in. We have this new queue attribute on the class, and we set it to a wavelink.queue instance. So we're creating that queue within this custom player. So every time we instantiate a custom player, every time we make a voice connection to our Discord voice channel via our bot, we create a new queue for that specific player, which is what we want. Next, let's take a look at our first command, the connect command. Here we have this command, connect. The first thing we do is create this variable called VC, and that's going to represent our voice client or voice connection, which is, again, the same thing as a player. It's basically a connection between the Discord bot and a voice channel. And we're going to set this to ctx.voiceClient. So ctx.voiceClient will be null if our bot is not in a voice channel, essentially. So this variable allows us to check whether a bot is in a voice channel and stuff like that. But you can see down here, so if it's not in a voice channel, then we want to actually connect it to a voice channel. So we call this .connect function, and we pass in our custom player class. What this function will do is return a voice client or a player or a voice connection. These are all synonyms, basically. And we want this voice connection to inherit all of the methods and attributes of our custom player class, so we can actually use these capabilities to play music and stuff. So that's why we pass in our player class there. And then we can say our bot is already connected to a voice channel. And this try except block is just to make sure that the user is inside a channel before they're able to use this connect command. The disconnect command is pretty similar to the connect in that we declare this VC variable and we check if it's actually connected to a channel, and if it is, then we're able to disconnect it. Next, let's talk about our most complicated command, yet most interesting, the play command. So what this takes in is a string of some sorts or a YouTube link, and it'll cast this argument to a wavelink.youtube track. So in this casting, Wavelink will search YouTube for this specific set of strings. If you put in Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen, it'll search YouTube for that, and if it's able to return a video from that, it'll successfully cast it, and you'll have a wavelink.youtube track object, which we can use to play later. Again, this is representing a Discord voice connection. Our play command is so complicated because it actually has 3 different functionalities. You're able to actually connect to a VC with this play command if you're not in a VC already, and that's what we do here. This is basically the same thing we do in the connect command. The play command also has the ability to play music, obviously, but also to add items to the queue. So if a song is already playing in the voice channel and you run this play command, it's actually going to put the track you just searched to the end of the queue. And we do that by doing vc.queue.put and then the item, so our search item, our YouTube track. And then here we're just sending an embed to notify the user what we're actually doing with our bot. And otherwise, if no music is playing and our bot's connected, we can just play our YouTube track. So let's see this in action. I'm actually going to rerun this code. Let's go to Discord and let's try the connect command. So it's going to tell me to please join a voice channel. Let's do that. And we'll try it again. There we go, we're connected. We can also disconnect. So our bot's gone. And we can also play. Call me maybe. And I'll have to get rid of this quickly because so it says that we're playing and it actually links to the YouTube video. Okay, please, I don't want to get copyrighted. The queue functionality is not going to work right now because we haven't fully set up the queue. Now, very briefly, I'll go over the skip command. So the skip command is going to check if anything is playing, and if it is playing, it's just gonna, if nothing's playing, it's gonna say nothing is playing, so you can't skip anything. If the queue is empty, meaning there's no songs after to skip to, we're just gonna stop playing altogether. If we can successfully skip a track, what we want to do is use this seek method of the wavelink.player class, or in turn our custom player class, which is in our VC variable. And what we do is pass in a position of our track in milliseconds. So a 1 second track, the final position would be 1000 milliseconds because that's 1 second. But we can get the track length in seconds by doing vc.track.length. We multiply that by 1000 to get milliseconds. And then what this will do is it'll move to the last millisecond of the song, and that essentially will skip the song. And here's a fix down here I just noticed in my testing. If the audio is paused and we try to skip, it'll remain paused, so we just want to resume it. The pause function, we're going to make sure that something is actually playing and we're not paused already, and then we can pause. In our resume, pretty much the same thing. We want to make sure something is paused to resume. If nothing is, then we can't use this command. So let's test this out again. Let's say play, call me maybe. It'll play. Let's pause. Pause again. Let's resume. And let's skip. So now nothing's playing because there's nothing in the queue. Let's talk about error handling. And you could make error handling for all of these, but there's already some error handling in the logic here. But we want to create an error handler for our play command, and this code will do that. And we want to do this with our play commands specifically because there can be an error when casting or searching for a YouTube track. So when you type in, play, call me maybe, or something like that, it's going to cast that string to a wavelink.youtube track. So it's going to search for that string in YouTube, however it does that. And if that's not successful, it's going to throw a commands.bad_arguments error. So that's why we have this if statement. So if we can't find a YouTube video matching that, it's going to throw that error, and we'll just say could not find a track. And any other error thrown by that command is usually going to be the result of the fact that you're not in a voice channel. So that's why we have the else there. Lastly, let's talk about queues. And we already created our queue, but we actually have to add the logic to make our queue work. And to do that, we're going to use an event that Wavelink gives us. So in our events section, we're going to use this event called on_wavelink_track_end. In here, we have access to our player, which is the same thing as our VC. So this event is going to fire when a track ends. So that's really convenient for a queue, because then what we want to do is actually get the next track in the queue. We want to make sure the queue is not empty, and we can say next track is equal to player.queue.get, and then you just want to say await player.play next track. So this .get method will get the next track in the queue, and it'll also remove the other track from the queue that was just played. So that's basically it for our code. It looks like a lot of code, and it kind of is, but a lot of it is just honestly error checking. Let's try this again. We'll queue some songs, and now it's saying all of these are queued. Again, we can pause like normal and resume and skip. Skip again. Okay, so there we have it. You got your queue, you got your music, you got your controls, and again, let's look at the Wavelink documentation, because there's a ton of other features you can add. Just in the player, there's a ton of things. You can have your own seek command, you can have your own set volume command, or your stop command. You can even set a filter for your audio. How cool is that? You can set a filter to a wavelink.filter and change the audio levels and stuff like that, but we're not going to get into that because I know nothing about audio. I would make it sound horrible. We can even distort it. That's crazy. These are some useful classes that Wavelink gives us. So thank you, Wavelink, and thanks for the great docs. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if it helped you at all, if you found it interesting at all, leave a like, hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye!